Alright, folks. How's it going? It's Sunday. Hope y'all are well. I wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind lately. It's a phrase that I've used in the past as well, and that and I don't think that I want to use it anymore. But I see it being used a lot as a gotcha or a slam dunk or a way to do a victory lap at the end of a debate or after you've had a disagreement with someone. And it's the phrase living rent free in someone else's head, and what that really means. You know, uh, Honestly, if we're being honest, everyone we meet and interact with lives rent free in our head to a certain degree, one way or the other. Either it can be a positive way. All my friends, I keep them on my mind, and in a positive way, and think well of them and highly of them. And most of the people that I interact with in my life, I think well and highly of. There are a few people who, especially if it, based on the how recent our disagreement was and how heated that disagreement was, how wronged I felt in that disagreement, might be occupying more space or be at the forefront of my thoughts than others. Um, and so, and I would assume vice versa. Uh, most people I think tend to assume at the end of the day, or operate, from a position where our greatest knowledge about the way that the world works is obviously from our own perspective and our own experiences. So I think a lot of times we end up projecting the way that we process things onto others. And so this concept, is the same way. If we know what it's like to be in that experience where you feel like you've been done wrong by someone and you are um, processing that, mulling over it. It's weighing on your mind and causing you stress. And so it can feel good in the moment when you have those bad feelings about someone else and uh, you see evidence that they are still processing and hanging on to those bad feelings towards you. And so that's usually where the phrase, glad to see I'm living rent free in your head, still comes up. And I kind of want to push back on the idea that that's something to be proud of, because usually it seems like, and I'll admit that probably when I've used it, this has also been the case, is that you're actually at some level recognizing and now acknowledging that you didn't necessarily handle things in the best or most productive way that you could have. You instead decided to meet force with force, as it were, and make things worse rather than better. It can be hard, especially when you're in the heat of the moment in a disagreement, to take a step back and try to have a discussion about what's really going on rather than having a discussion about the emotions and that you're feeling in the moment, and the where you feel like you've been done wrong, and you get into a flexing match where you go back and forth trying to dunk on the other guy or get a leg up, or hold the moral high ground. um, that all exercise, I think, yields very little fruit at the end of the day. It's something that seems to becoming seems to be becoming more common in the era of social media and the internet, where we've all been given platforms that facilitate one-to-many confirmation. So rather than speaking directly with someone and having one-on-one conversations with them, instead we have a conversation to our audience, which is more likely to be on our side, to take our side, to be a sympathetic ear as we work through and tell our side of a story. But and we do that in lieu of having an actual honest conversation with the person that we've had the disagreement with. Um, in my time of being on this space, in this space, having a Twitch and a YouTube channel where I primarily focus on doing iRacing, I've gotten into disagreements with a number of different guys on the simulator. Some of those have gone really badly, and there are still bad feelings that I harbor, and they probably harbor towards me to this day. Some of those have gone on for years. I really don't take any pride in that. At the end of the day, as I reflect on it, like, it doesn't make me feel better that someone else is holding a bad opinion of me, and really that bad opinion of me is based on what's most likely a misunderstanding, where rather than trying to make an effort to clarify what my perspective was on the situation and talk through it, instead I probably took what was perceived as a cheap shot and burned a bridge rather than looking to mend one. More often than not, though, I actually have had positive conversations with folks, and those have been really productive. And I think both parties have often come away from that surprised with how, like, me and the other person came away from those surprised with how well we got along, how easy it was actually once we started talking honestly about what the things that upset us were in the moment, how easy it was to work through and get past those and acknowledge the humanity in one another. And so those people still live rent free in my head too, but they live rent free in a positive way. The one that sticks out in my head most recently was with it was a guy in the winter series, and he caused a wreck on a restart. Or I felt like he was at fault for causing a wreck on a restart. Really, he wasn't trying to wreck, but I called him out for driving right through it, and then called him out as I was going through the replay for being, at the very least, the common denominator in a couple of other incidents that happened in the race. This one was at Homestead. The video came out, and yeah, my title and the image that I put on it was definitely what would be described as clickbait. I got a channel. I'm going to be honest with you guys. When there's controversy and stuff like that, those tend to get more views. The drama tends to get more views. I don't like that. I don't like. I would ultimately prefer to have no drama ever in any of the races that I do, have them all go smoothly and continue to get 100 to 200 views per video rather than the 500 views or so that the drama videos get, if I'm being honest. But if I'm being offered on a platter, hey, here's an opportunity to just let the headline lead with something that's a little more sensational, get a few extra views. Sometimes some of those people stick around and end up actually buying into what my channel's about long term. My most popular video was one titled iRacing, what was it? Wrecks, crashes, drama, iRacing, wrecks, drama, and mayhem. Tempers, fights, drama, whatever it was. All the buzzwords and stuff in the video. That's the only one I've ever had get over 10,000 views or whatever that one got. There was another one after that was kind of like the sequel, That one involved a guy by the name of Mike Bruno. We were uh, in at opposite on opposite sides of a very heated debate in that one. We he ended up being the teammate of a guy who was a good friend of mine on the channel and who facilitated. You know, we ended up talking it out months later, and that was actually a really short conversation. It was just like, "Hey man, I was upset about this. Yeah man, I was upset about that. We're cool now." As far as I know, Mike and I are cool. Uh, and that went very positively. Still technically lives rent free in my head, but it's not living rent free because I still hold a negative perception of him based on an incomplete understanding of who he is as a person. Now he occupies space in my head where I have a lot of respect for the guy because he was able to handle uh, a difficult situation in a respectful manner, you know, and I appreciate that. We're human beings. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to we all have emotions. We're all going to get frustrated in the moment when things don't go our way. Um, I think it's really important to distinguish between mistakes and misunderstandings and actions of intent, actions where you intend to inflict harm on another person, whether it's just you intend to inflict emotional harm or distress in some way by calling them a name or putting them down deliberately or piling on when they're already down. And when instead you say something that gets taken the wrong way or out of context and you didn't actually intend to inflict the harm that it did on that other person. Do you think it's important to always keep in mind the other person's psyche and the way that in the way that your words land? At the end of the day, you can know inside your head what the complete um, totality of your intent behind your words was, and so you can know that, and someone's reaction to what you say sometimes can come across as a surprise because they're reacting not to the complete totality of what you intended. They're just reacting to what you said and the way that those words landed. So, you know, it's important to keep in mind and to understand how your words are going to land. So circling back to the initial point of this video, the term living rent free in someone's head. I think we would all do well to really think about that term and really think about when we use it. Is it really a badge of pride to wear that someone else has an impression of you as someone who deliberately does things that are antagonistic in nature, or dishonest, hurtful, malicious, and all those things. Because that's often what's conveyed when you say that. I'm glad I'm living rent free in your head. I'm glad that you have this poor impression of me and that you're carrying that around with you. If you really think about it from that way, that's what you're saying, don't think that any of us really, if we're being honest with ourselves, are proud to have people like that. And if you're proud of, what you're really saying there is, I think so little of this particular person that I'm glad that they have a bad opinion of me because I have an even worse opinion of them. That's really what you're saying there. So you know, um, I'd be lying if I didn't say that there are certain people in this world that I have a pretty bad opinion of. Um, but I'm not open. The door is never closed from my perspective to have a conversation to clarify things and hopefully come to a mutual understanding and respect with those people. Again, like I said, I've had really bad disagreements with folks that are settled in a 5 minute conversation or even shorter than that. Sometimes it's just two, three quick exchanges with text like, hey man, I didn't mean it that way. Yeah, I took it the wrong way. And then we're good after that point. It can sometimes really be that quick. It just takes a quick little apology, and all of a sudden, like the situation gets diffused immediately. Um, you know, and sometimes you need to wait for the proper amount of time and space for something like that. We all, we all let our emotions get the best of us in the heat of the moment when you're competing um, in an intense competition the way that iRacing is. Yeah, those emotions in the heat of a moment can get pretty high, and that's why I think it's important to always try to take a breath after a race is complete, and or after you're separated from the intense situation, and really look at things from a longer view. I know I do. Um, a lot of people have mocked my use of the pledge at the beginning of races and things like that as being cringe. And that's fine if you think that. Um, where I've always come with that is, instead of doing it kind of takes place as a pre-race ceremony for me, and it occupies the same space that NASCAR uses the invocation and the national anthem on the races. It's a little ceremony that I like to do just as a little reminder to myself and something to hold myself accountable as I go into these races to, try to be as respectful and try to remember to hold good sportsmanship, because it can be very difficult to keep your wits about you when you get caught up in the heat of competition. Um, I had a couple races and incidents in the past where I really flew off on the handle and went off on a guy because of a wreck that he didn't intend to cause, and I was much more harsh on the microphone than I needed to be in telling him what I thought of him at that current time. And I didn't like the way that looked afterwards. It's not a good look when a grown man's yelling at someone over a video, something that happened in a video game. But we all get heated in the middle of it. Um, so if I get wrecked and then I cuss someone out or call them names and stuff like that, and then I see 2 days later that they're still upset about what I said. If my response is, hey, I'm glad I'm still living rent free in your head, is that really something to be proud of? Dude wrecked me, fine. And he probably didn't intend to. It was probably an honest mistake. My response to that was to cuss him out or call him names and stuff like that. And that's what he's basing his opinion on off of me on. Should I really be proud that I'm living rent free in his head because I had an emotional reaction to a mistake that he made? Yeah, I don't think so. Um, but claiming that as a badge of honor is certainly going to make the impression that he has of me even worse. It has the effect of burning that bridge. Um, so I'm gonna try to use that phrase a whole lot less or not at all. And if I do use it, definitely gonna limit it to, I would definitely recommend limiting it to situations where you better be sure that's exactly what you mean. And I think that that's kind of what I mean by the end of all this is, at the end of the day, things go a lot better. I'm doing so bad. I'm looking at me instead of looking at the camera. At the end of the day, things go better in life if you take the time to plainly say what you really mean and communicate with people. Things tend to go better that way. So that's what I'm encouraging you to do. Don't take the easy road out. Don't take the cheap shot. Uh, instead of when someone calls you out for something, instead of saying, "Oh, hey man, I'm glad I'm living rent free in your head. I'm glad that you have a bad impression of me. That makes me feel so good about myself." Does it really? Instead of saying that, why don't you say, "Hey, it, that doesn't sound like me. It sounds like you might have come away with something with an incomplete image of me. Can we talk about this?" You might be surprised how it goes. You might be surprised the the friendships you're able to form and the mutual respect you might have for that human being that you were so mad at 5 minutes ago. You might be surprised how quickly things change on that. So that's what I would recommend to, you know, everyone. And what I would say is the takeaway from this is just take a little time to say what you really mean and let's try as much as possible to form opinions about one another based on what who we really are and where we're really coming from rather than, you know, forming opinions based on flex matches on social media. That's all I got for today, folks. Have a good Sunday. We got a race coming up in a few minutes here, and looking forward to watching that. Hope y'all are well. Have a blessed day. Thank y'all.